who think that they've been battling that we've missed here on screen.
Oh, Hisada wide.
Hisada, can he make the corner? Somehow he does. How did he get back on there? That could not have been any closer. 0 as they cross the line, and now they start to scatter. They know it's for real this time, and I think that's Adams Jr., who's got a good shot, and he goes up the middle, 3 wide into Lacombe. Is he going to be able to take the lead? Yes, he's got it. And coming down into the second one. Yep, there it is. I was going to say, he's mighty close. Hisada sees it coming. Is he going to try and cut back? He's going to use the wider exit to actually get a good launch and take the inside. Coming down into Hans Ernst. Could he fight back? He doesn't have the nose ahead of him. There goes Shedlik, who goes a little wide, banking now the other way. Hisada fights back, and coming down into Kumho, Hisada somehow is back into the lead. As we anticipated, Detroit was a tough track last race. But there's little reprieve for the drivers today with Charlotte's Roval on tap. This recently renovated hybrid circuit has found not only a good amount of use, but has also provided an incredible challenge for anyone who tackles it. Will it catch out our competitors today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Garnering far more attention than it had in previous incarnations, this version of Charlotte has turned heads since NASCAR announced they'd race it. Let's head to our track guide to see what it entails. Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Road Tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure, it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands. Well, DJ, sports cars have taken to this track other than just NASCAR trying to race around the Roval. So what are we expecting with the Porsche 911 GT3Rs?
Well, Joe, we're expecting a tight, twisty, and technical circuit around here. This Roval, it's not really like Daytona where you're able to build up those big speeds and send those mega drafts down into the corners. A lot of the overtaking zones are relatively narrow around here. The primary ones being going down into the heartburn turn, that first turn there, as well as then on the bus stop of turn 11, and then the bus stop of turn 15, 16, and 17. But the problem with both of those bus stops is they're pretty single file. So you've got to get the move done before you get into it. Now, one of the things that does make this roval a little bit unique is the elevation change that happens coming up through turn 5, 6, and 7. You've got to be careful not to let the car slip away from you. You can kind of let the rears run out a little bit wide. And so you've really got to be on top of your car all through those areas and then really nail that exit out of turn 8 up onto the high banking to try to carry as much speed as possible.
Well, before we get to that speed, let's mention our sponsors for this series, which of course includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. As well as Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. As for the championship situation, Tom Layton continuing to stretch away from everybody else as he has taken 4 wins in a row of what he has arrived to, but he missed round 5 earlier in the season when they were at Zandvoort. Michael Johnson is in second right now, but in qualifying, he's not been looking so hot today, so he might wind up losing quite a few more points unless he can get this car underneath him. Travis Brown is within 4 points of Michael, with Corey Lotvilla a decent distance back, and then Michael Ost rounding out your top 5. What about today's race details, DJ?
Well, Joe, we're in for a little bit of a change here for round 8. It is going to be one of the pseudo-endurance rounds, a 90-minute race. And as always, drivers are going to be driving those Porsche 911 GT3Rs. Open setups, but this is a very, very open community. So a lot of setups are going to be shared with people. And one of the biggest differences that we're going to see from the normal sprint races that we have is watch for pit stops being performed over the course of this race. You got to come down pit lane at some point.
And I'm curious to see how they handle the fuel strategy as well as the tires, as well as I know there was some talk amongst them about if it is worth it. Seems a little strange, especially with a night race, a roval with a lot of banking, but some of the drivers seem to think it might be worth it to take the time hit in pit lane. Is here on screen. You've got one of our front runners coming through, Michael Bolton, in the 127, but he's only in 12th right now, having a little bit of a struggle in qualifying. Layton has the provisional pole currently, and by half a second over Corey Lotvilla. Travis Brown, though, is back in 4th, and he is about 0.8 of a second off the lead. He only has to make up about half a tenth on Jacob Abrams, though, and with 6 minutes left in the quali, there's a good chance that he could snatch that 3rd spot.
Well, he's not going to do it there on that, as he's just going to mainline that corner and go straight through. And that's going to be a called off lap there, I think, for him, as he's going to have to serve a slowdown by doing that, not able to pick up as much speed as he would like. So, yeah, he's going to come on back to the pits. And, Joe, here I think, as opposed to what we normally tend to see in these qualifying sessions, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some times starting to fall here as it goes along. We are going to be driving into the night, and so that means track temperatures are going to be cooling a little bit. Right now it's 74 degrees Fahrenheit out on track, and I think if you're able to go out, get the tires up to temperature, get a hot lap in, it is going to be very, very effective.
19 drivers have taken to the track today for this race, and round 8 is certainly going to be an interesting one here at the Roval. Not one that you'd expect compared to some of the others that they've put on the list, but certainly should be fascinating to watch. And so far, it's proven extremely difficult, especially some of them talking about the dangers of coming off the exit of 7 towards that wall that separates the run from the entry and the exit to the oval.
Yeah, and that's some of that elevation changes there. You could see, I believe that was the 97 there. That was Tom Layton having a little bit of problems there over that crest coming over turn 6. But that 6-7 complex, you really have to make sure the car is stable, and that is particularly difficult to do because not only do you have elevation change, but you've got camber change there as well. And you've really got to make sure you've got everything dialed in there to make sure that the rear end of these rear-wheel drive rear engine Porsches don't get a little bit slippery on you.
Attrition in 5th, having a pretty decent day here in qualifying in that 59 machine. Bright green car, though. Did he actually hit the wall there? Almost seemed like he did, and that would discount the lap as well for him. As hopefully he didn't get damage from it, because then he's not going to be fast on any of the 5-lane laps either. He seems to think he doesn't as he carries on down into the chicane. Very swift chicane in these cars, and once again close. That time he did touch the wall, and he's going to park it.
That's a bit of a shame there. He was green through the first sector of the lap on that as we now watch Corey Lotvilla working his way around, jumping around the field a little bit. This is Matt Hollander. A little surprised to see him that far down in the order, but Joe, this is a real love it or hate it kind of track. Either you get the rhythm, you get the flow, and you absolutely nail it, or you just struggle the entire way around.
Yeah, Hollander getting very close to that wall, exiting onto the oval, into the banking of NASCAR 1 and 2. So down to the backstretch as he's been having a bit of trouble here getting clean laps in. He's not the only one, though, frankly. I've seen a lot of drivers that have been spinning a lot out here during the qualifying. They have a spare car in this series as well, so we're expecting a few of them to have to take that, much like we expected with Detroit last time out. And down into the last chicane, stays off the curbs. Guess he wants to try and keep it nice and safe, but that lap got deleted anyways for Hollander. So he's going to have to cycle back around and try again. Looking to see if anybody else is looking like they're on a good one this late into a 30-minute qualifying. It's going to be hard to get all that much quicker.
Yeah, it really is, Joe. And you talked about the curbs there. That's something else that we need to talk about in terms of this track. Very, very high serrated curbs around some of the crucial areas on this track, specifically both bus stops. They are very, very tough and can really take a beating out of the car, absolutely upsetting the lateral load on it. And it's very, very difficult to be able to get right. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a spin or two coming out of the drivers. There you can see that's Doug Baccignoni doing what we haven't seen a lot of drivers be able to do, and that's keep it out of the wall coming into NASCAR 1, that turn 8. Easy to slide up the track there and let that happen.
Will the California driver be able to go quicker than his 5th place, make up those 0.08 of a second? We'll see here. Let's see. His timing is showing him a little bit down on his best, so I'm not optimistic on it. You talked about those curbs. The NASCAR drivers even dubbed them the turtles out there. You don't want to hit the turtles. And Doug across the line, 14.9 is about a half a second off of his quickest. So back around he goes, but he's only got maybe about 2 more laps here.
Yeah, indeed. And there you can see, by the way, Schulem cutting through that red, white, and blue section of the track. That is perfectly legal. He is not going to pick up a time cut for that.
Lights on the stadium lighting are on, it appears, as well as on the cars themselves. And Schulem getting awful close to the exit, but that one not an improvement for him that time by. And that is the start of his final flyer, with the laps chiming in at about 1:14, 1:13 for the quickest out in the field. Down into the back stretch chicane. Who is going to be able to improve this last time by? Lotvilla, who's only had 3 laps counted, has managed to be quick in those few that counted as he's up to 2nd place. He's not had good results in the latest part of the season. He's had 2 second places, and those were in round 2 and round 3.
Yeah, he's got some work to do as there. Oh, just off going faster was Tom Layton. He was purple through Sector 3. He'll still have time to get one more in if he wants to try to extend that lead he currently has.
Ting Wan's going to take another lap here if she wants it in the 20. As she's coming down to the line, watching Michael Johnson, who backed himself up to get a clear run here and start one last go as well. Johnson, not as high as we've seen him in recent races, only into 6th so far, outside of row 3. But he's often said his qualifying's not as good as his racing is. So we'll see if that's the case today, especially with some of the predictions of the attrition today.
Yeah, that's a big thing we were talking to Michael about before the race, that a lot of drivers here fouling afoul of some of those walls, some of these tricky corners. We think that there are going to be a fair few drivers that do get knocked out of place here today. And so if you are able to just be calm, cool, and collected, that will help you to get your way forward.
So checkered flag is out. Everybody from here are just finishing their hot lap. CPEC is the next one that's going to be through, but he looks like he is on a slow one. And indeed, that one does not count, but we're watching Michael Johnson, who is looking somewhat quick here. Is he going to be able to finally get faster? Half a tenth to try and catch Doug Baccignone. And then, in fact, barely over a tenth to catch Travis Brown and get onto the second row. Chucks it down into the last chicane. Is he going to be quick here to the line? No, it's a 14.7. That's 0.2 off his quickest.
And that's just about going to wrap up qualifying here for us, Joe, as everybody's been able to cross over the line.
Indeed, your order starts with Tom Layton, who has been taking many of the poles this season, as Corey Lotfula will be to his outside. Jacob Abrams will start from 3rd, as Travis Brown will be P4. After that, Doug Baccignone 5th. Will have Michael Johnson outside of him in 6th, and Jad Duncan will start from 7th. Jeffrey Shulam will be P8, Sam Mayorga 9th, and Matthew Cepek rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Andrew Becker, followed by Michael Bolton, with Paul Newton 13th and Michael Robon 14th. Mark Rondo will be lining up in 15th with Matt Hollander to his outside, with John Momeyer, Ting Nguyen, and Doug Nguyen rounding out the rest of the field.
Just about have everybody out there. I always loved how they grid cars on this one, just like they do in NASCAR, where they line them up all on display, and then they'll take off one by one before they actually go side by side. So Tom Layton, as I mentioned, 4 wins on the trot. Really, the only bad result he's had was at Hockenheim, where the lap traffic got into him. And then he finished in 2nd place at Suzuka in the very first round. So it's been unbelievable consistency from that number 97 machine. We'll see if he can keep that up today as we come back to another of our endurance formats. There's more chances to trip up. And with such a short lap as well, DJ, there's more chances that somebody could trip you up.
Yeah, indeed. We are going to have traffic over the course of this. And so that is certainly going to be something that we're going to be talking about. And as we said, overtaking, not the easiest thing on its way around here. So you're going to have to take those high percentage moves to really be able to get everything to work right.
Well, as they accelerate down into Heartburn Turn, they'll get a view of it at slow pace here briefly, and then it'll be 90 minutes of nothing but full attack around this circuit. There's definitely a few drivers that need to get some good results here. Michael Bolton has managed 2 4th places recently, but other than that, he's had a pretty miserable season earlier on. And as I mentioned, Corey Lotfula has not been on the podium since we were at Silverstone back in round 3. In fact, I'm checking through. I don't think Lotfula has been higher than 5th at all since that 3rd place. So yeah, it's been a struggle for Corey.
Yeah, and Corey, it's not really a result of his own driving. He's just been caught out by a couple of unfortunate incidents, whether at Barcelona or Detroit. Just the victim of circumstance, really. There's speed to be had in that 22, and we've seen him claw his way back up through the field, but it's just a matter of staying out of the incidents that aren't his fault.
Sometimes you need a little bit of luck in racing, and hasn't been on the side of Corey, but he's going to be starting up from the front row, so hopefully that'll help him until they start to hit the lap traffic. So we watch them out of NASCAR 2 here and onto the back stretch. So going to be the high speed portions of this track. How much do you think the slipstream will be worth here? Do you think drivers will be able to hang on to that toe?
I think they'll be able to hang on to it, Joe, but because of the tighter radius of these corners, it's not like Daytona where you've got to absolutely stay close behind. We don't see a lot of massive draft-assisted passes here around Charlotte. It's just not that type of roval necessarily. It's a little bit like Homestead's roval in that regard. I think really and truly what you need to focus on is your exits up onto that banking coming out of turn 8, out of turn 12, out of the bus stop there, to really be able to springboard yourself forward. The draft is going to help, but it's not going to be the end-all be-all.
Okay, let's see if it keeps Corey close to Tom, who is getting ready to take the green flag. Now, they have to go through the chicane. NASCAR in real life is able to ditch the chicane, but these drivers are not able to here in the sim. So they wait patiently. And when will Tom decide to go? Is he going to give it early, or is he going to wait for the green flag to be waved? Out of that final chicane. Green flag is out. Oh, he gets a horrible start. And there goes Corey Lotvilla on by. He's going to get the lead by the time they get down a heartburn turn, but will he have it after? Yes, he does. Everybody else trying to tiptoe their way through, and they are clear out of turn 1.
They are indeed. Mega start there from Corey Lotvilla, and a very decisive slide over right coming out of the heartburn turn, getting onto the racing line, preventing Leighton from having any attack whatsoever. Now the impetus is going to be on the 97 to see if he can get anything up and on by.
You mentioned it's hard to pass, so that track position could wind up being critical for the 22. But look how closely Leighton is following him. Up onto the banking as they start to pick up speed. Abrams still sits in third, and I think Mark Rondeau had a bit of a spin in the back of the field. We'll check on that a little later. Down towards the first chicane.
Oh, a little bit of a look there for Tom Leighton. Is he going to think about making that move down into the bus stop? Yes, he is, but Lotvilla, push off line there a little bit, and Leighton back up to the lead, but that's going to bring Jacob Abrams and Doug Boccignoni into the equation.
Will he be able to lead this first lap through? Looks like Bolton had a spin. You can see him returning to the track, thankfully. And Doug Boccignoni trying to overtake on Abrams for third, is not able to get there. Ooh, and a slap against the wall from Lotvilla.
Oh, that is not what you want to see, but he is in full attack mode here, trying to send one around the outside of the heartburn turn, looking this way and that on Tom Leighton. He is not happy that he lost that position.
Gonna make him work for it, that is for sure. Out and into the infield they go. Here's where you start to see that rise that DJ was talking about, through 5 into 6, blind right-hander, and then switching back, not giving it up. Better exit here potentially for Lotvilla, as he certainly opened up that entry significantly, and he is gonna get a nice toe now.
Yeah, he is. Leighton looked a little bit squirrely there coming out of turn 6. The car almost wanting to step away from him, and he was everything he could do to just keep that car underneath him. Lotvilla not going to be close enough to make an attack going down into this rear bus stop, but there you can see, able to run a little bit of a narrower line, keep that gap under 0.2 of a second. That's exactly what Corey needs to be doing here at this stage in the race.
And they are pulling away from Abrams to the tune of 1.6 seconds already. There you can see the gap between them and third place. So much curb there for Tom Leighton, sending the wheels up into the air. And as they now go through heartburn turn and turn 2 once again, Lotvilla falls off by a couple car lengths, but keeps the pressure on.
Yeah, and he's okay to lose a little bit of time here through the infield section. What he doesn't want to do is lose time through 6, 7, and 8. That's where he's got to be crucial, and that's where he's got to nail the exits. He can afford to lose just a hair of time here, but he can't let it all slip away.
Back onto the oval once again. Not seeing many battles behind them. The drivers all kind of spreading apart through much of the fields. And we do have a few movers, though. John Momeyer's up 5 already from 17th on the grid in his number 6.
Yeah, he is, but he's got some pretty significant front end damage to that machine. I'm not sure what happened. He's got a right side that is all kinds of dented in.
We'll check and see if we can figure that out in a bit. Lotfula now dropping. It's gone to 0.5 of a second. They break into the final chicane one more time, and Corey is very fast off of there, just about scraping the paint off the right-hand side every time.
Yeah, he is really, really pushing that car to the absolute limits there. I love seeing that commitment from Corey Lotfula. The gap, by the way, back to Jacob Abrams now at about 1.8 seconds. So these two are starting to pull away. But crucially here, Lotfula does remain in the draft of Tom Layton, so he's not going to lose that around the large NASCAR corners.
I wonder if the damage you mentioned on Momeyer is costing him, because Hollander is the other one that's made inroads. He's up 3, and here you can see him on screen now, flashing his lights, or is that just the bumps that he's hitting? It's hard to tell from my angle as they go, oh, and there's a spin, and he'll get that spot with ease. Momeyer catches it before it goes off into the grass, but Hollander now up to 12.
And so that's going to promote Matt up there, and that's going to separate out the closest battle that we had out on track at the moment. Still a lot of drivers running a little bit of packs here in the early stages of this race. Only 5 minutes gone. There is Paul Newton right now as he has got Michael Roban all over the back of him.
Down into the braking for the first chicane. And Michael taking quite a bit of curb himself, so Paul gets a better exit off of that one. Into NASCAR 3 and 4 now. They separate slightly, and that'll allow the 27 car to breathe a little more easier. He can see the car of Momeyer, though, in front of him, who wasn't last time by across the line after his slip up, so that'll certainly encourage Paul to push that little bit harder.
Yeah, indeed it will. He'll definitely want to be trying to gain up a little bit more, try to push as hard as he can. Momeyer just needs to focus on hitting his apexes here. Still a lot of time left to go in this race, and there is still going to be more than likely a lot of attrition.
Worth noting that Lotfula is now dropped to a full second behind on Layton. It's not looking good for him. Momeyer struggled a little bit here as he was slightly offline. And Paul Newton continues to close it down to half a second now. Can he manage to get by? Is this due to the damage, or is Momeyer just rattled?
I think Momeyer may just be a little bit rattled here, Joe. I'm not seeing any massive damage to that machine necessarily. I think he's just a little bit gun shy. And at a track like this where you've got to be aggressive, you've got to attack those turtles, you really have to chuck the cars into the corners. If you get in your head a little bit, it is a massive detriment to your lap time.
Well, that time it was Newton that took too much of the curb. He fell back in that first chicane, and what was half a second doubles to a full second. So we watch from the back, and now it swings back to Momeyer having a little bit of a mistake, and it is 2/10 of a second between them.
It is indeed. Here's another. There it is on your screen. Newton just trying to close in. This is going to be the story of the race, just applying slow but steady pressure. I don't really anticipate a lot of multiple corners, side-by-side kind of things. You're just going to want to try to keep up behind the driver as much as possible and get them into a little bit of a mistake like that. That was a very wide run there through 6 for Momeyer.
Coming up onto the banking. Look at how wide they let them slide out, hoping to probably use that compression to grip up as it picks up speed. In the meantime, side by side here onto the banking. Somebody wanted on, and he was not taking no for an answer. That was, I think that was Duncan making contact with Mayorga. Or no, it was Shulam, I think.
Yeah, it was Shulam there who had that little bit of a mistake, and so he's able to get by. Jad Duncan now going to be closing in on the back of him. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, the give and take over the course of the race. When you make a mistake, how quickly you're able to recover and get yourself back into setting those good lap times.
It was a very odd situation. Shulam was much better off the exit of the backstretch chicane, and Duncan was already at the bottom. That's why we saw Schulam barge his way up, because he wanted the banking to get that better speed that it offers. And he eventually got it, but I'm sure Duncan did not appreciate the gesture. So as they come around on NASCAR 1 and 2, it looks like he's got to try and rework and catch back up, see if he can pull the same. Might want to take a look at the replay, because definitely not often I've seen this sort of thing on any of these rovals.
Yeah, it's certainly a different situation, let's call it there, Joe. So this is Duncan coming down into the corner. 1-2, hops the curb. Oh, yeah, just doesn't get the power down as quickly as he wanted to. I think he may have just overshot it, and a little bit of how you do.
Well, thankfully, they're both able to continue. Also, Travis Brown managed to go by on Baccignone. So Travis up to 5th because of that. They're already having to lap some other cars. Doug Nguyen is staying out of the way of them. And somebody's in pit lane, Michael Robin in the 929.
Looks like he's got a black flag, Joe.
It's got to be incident limits, I would think. No, he's down into his pit stall. Yeah, they have an incident limit at every 17, but this is extremely early for that. And somebody off the pace at the bottom of the banking through NASCAR 1 and 2. This is Beckner.
Well, and you saw there when Raban was in pit lane that car kind of popped there. That means he took his free repair, his spare car. Beckner able to get himself back up on track before breaking down into that back bus stop there. Whoa! And then having a little how you do.
Yeah, in fact, that's not the first problem he's had today. When we saw him slow, he had a big hit on the inside barrier. This is a very strange situation, honestly. Worth a replay on that one. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought it into pit lane, because it was a huge thunk. So, yeah, you're going to see it here on the exit of 8, but it's not the outside that'll hit, it's the inside.
Brings it through there. Car's already loose. Oh, that is a big, big hit there for him. Yeah, that is definitely going to affect that car. Obviously, the engine's going to be okay because the engine is in the rear of the car, but that could definitely have bent a toe link there up in the front of the car and probably expense. Yeah, you can see him just sort of four-wheel drifting there through the corner. That is some messed up suspension there for him.
And Doug Baccignone just also spun himself without hitting anything. Don't need a replay of this one. He'll keep going after he had to patiently wait for 4 whole cars to overtake him. And he is now back on track. But as we watch those 4 that just passed him, they got a nice little fight still between Schulam, Mayorga, Duncan, who's now lost to Mayorga as well. And that's CPEC in the 12 that is trying to see if he can overtake as well. It's been a backward slide for the 83.
Yeah, it certainly has, and he's just trying to stop the bleeding here at this point, seeing what he can do. Again, he's just got to find that rhythm around here, Joe. That is so much of what this track is. There you can see, though, the battle for the lead starting to separate itself out. Tom Layton pulling out a gap of 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, he's bit by bit dropping Latvala so that he can't fight him. But it sounds like, did Layton have a problem? He was even farther ahead before. Trying to see if we can figure out what caused this. Thinking maybe he had some sort of cut course penalty. I'm not really finding it right now because I don't see anything distinct there. So, strange moments for Layton, but he still holds the lead. And Duncan does lose a spot. Does Jad Duncan have some sort of damage, I wonder? Because he lost that one on the oval.
Very well might. I'm taking a look at him right here. I don't see, well, there's a little bit of is that a scuff or is that a dive plane there on the right front of the car? I can't completely tell. Everything looks okay from the left side there.
Yeah, I don't see any damage at all. He's got 2 black marks, but those are the vents. He's painted specially, so yeah, that looks like a clean car. Not sure what's happening. Also worth noting that for a brief while, Johnson was starting to threaten on Abrams for 3rd, but he's also fallen back. And Abrams has responded with an excellent 1:15.7. Johnson still running consistent times. It's just Jacob has really turned up the heat.
Yeah, he has. And by the way, Joe, I took a closer look at Jacob Abrams. There is a little bit of damage to that right front. I wasn't crazy. The splitter is a little bit bent on the right front, so that's going to be affecting his turn in.
So Johnson up to fourth. He's gained 2 positions since the start. In fact, he's the only one in the top 5 that has actually gained positions. Leighton, Lotvilla, and Abrams still sit where they gridded up. And a minute 16 left to go, or excuse me, hour 16 left to go. Another 16 minutes, we'll get to the pit window. Drivers should be able to stop in. Oh, Jacob Abrams just hit the wall. We need a replay. You can see a bit of damage on the right-hand side of the car. Not sure how badly this will affect him, but he's already lost a little bit of time to Johnson. But the chicane on the front stretch bit another one.
Oh, and that's going to be the story we talk about all night long, is that outside wall just coming to bite. If you're too aggressive over those turtles, it'll really come to hit you, and that has put Michael Johnson right into the position to be able to make the attack.
I think Abrams is wounded. He's losing time quite a bit here, and this might be the spot where Johnson can get it done. He is launching that car. He wants to try and overtake. He maybe saw a little bit of that action into the barrier. And as he catches, yeah, that looks like that Abrams is down a little bit on speed, but Michael backs out of it.
Michael here is being smart. I think he knows that Abrams is a little bit wounded. He's taking a high percentage move, and there it is. Down to the inside. He's able to take away that preferred low line around here. Not nearly as high as banking of Daytona, so running the high line does not help you at all. That is a good move from Michael Johnson.
I suspect we're going to see Abrams in with an early pit stop, do that damage. I wonder if we still have that replay spooled up to see what kicked this all off, because that might wind up being a critical moment in Abrams' race here. That was not quite the right one that we saw there. Definitely pancaked it on the right-hand side. There it is.
Yep.
Oh, and Abrams, if we come back live, is turned around. He is in the infield, facing the wrong way, trying to get some clear track. Oh, wow, that was Robin nearly running into him, and thankfully he was able to get out of the way.
I don't know how he got out of the way of that one, Joe, because that was about as close can be. Michael Robin with the reflexes of the century there.
So this started with a spin off of 4. They're going to see how it initially starts, and I'd love to get an onboard of the 929. Didn't look like he caught the curb. I think he just maybe sent it in a little hot.
All right, this is on board with Michael Robin. Now, this is a completely blind corner that he's coming up to. He is not going to be able to see Jacob Abrams at all because of the wall. There he comes into the headlights. Whoa!
Wow. Yeah, I thought, well, there's an opening on the inside, so maybe he could see him, but no. That was just fractions of a second to try and make good on that. And Abrams is in pit lane. I think he's trying to take one of his spare cars.
Yeah, a little bit. That is definitely what he is going to be doing there, and that is unfortunately going to be out of the pit stop window, so he is going to have to come in again here at some point, and that's really going to put him down the order.
Gutting development there for Abrams. By the way, this does help a number of drivers. Brown gets promoted up to 4th because of that. Shulam is up to P5 as well. Brown actually is back to where he started this race, interestingly, but he's 3rd in the points, so Travis will get some handy points if he can hold it here for the rest of the race. So we watch with Shulam. He's still got Mayorga chasing him. They've got CPEC in there, but Jad Duncan is all the way back in 8th and continuing to drop like we saw before.
Yeah, indeed he is. So everybody's starting to get a little bit spaced out here, but these battles are just kind of ebbing and flowing here at this point. Oh, that's Paul Newton around.
Trying to get out of the way and get rolling. Looks like he's going to stay off the racing line and eventually get up. Just a simple spin for him. Don't need a replay on this one. Self-made error for the 27. That sends him down into 15th place. This race is starting to look like who can make the fewest mistakes today, DJ.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, you know, this Charlotte Roval is a very, very tricky circuit. It is not an easy track to drive. And so I'm not surprised that we're seeing a lot of drivers coming in and out of pit lane having this damage. This is going to be a war of attrition, especially as it gets darker. You know, there are floodlights here to illuminate the outside NASCAR portions of this track, but once you get into the infield, you're running on your headlights alone pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty dark in there, and not quite like Daytona where they get that plenty lit up in the infield as well. This thing was not quite made for that, although it would be very cool. I wonder if anybody has suggested to NASCAR that they do a night race for the Roval, just to make things all that harder for the drivers in NASCAR. Breaking down into the front stretch chicane, Shulam trying to shake Mayorga, but just does not seem to have the pace to get rid of him.
Yeah, doesn't quite have it. And this is where the endurance racing thing of everything really starts to come into play, is you have to be just calm and patient. Cool, considerate driver here. You cannot try to push too hard or you're going to overuse your stuff. You don't want to have to be worrying about tires, that kind of thing. Just keep the pressure on nice and slowly. You still have an hour and 10 left in this race. Plenty of time to try to force an error out of the driver in front of you.
Coming back onto the oval once again. We're getting ready to have 15 left on the lead lap, as I think Ting Guan is close to having Tom Layton go by. There is Ting right now, up 2 spots from where she began this race. So far, so good. Had a little trouble at the very start, as she was slow, being a little bit timid through there, but the 20 has done what some others have not been able to do, and that's keep the car on the road.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one way to just keep it going. Sometimes you've got to be a little bit of the tortoise here and just slow and steady winning the race.
There you can see in the background, we're watching Layton catching up. And that is also Latvala in second place. Now, I thought this would be a bit of a wider gap by now with the way that Layton was pulling forward before, but it's only at 2 seconds ahead. And that lap traffic might be able to help as well if he catches it at the wrong time. But that now puts Ting down a lap, and Ting stays up out of the way with the blue flag showing. Not sure if she had some sort of issues or something, because she suddenly wobbled up to the high side.
It may have just been a little bit of a catch there that she had to make coming off the corner. You know, like Daytona, that transition from the flat infield coming up into the high banking, it can upset the suspensions in these cars. And if you don't hit it exactly right, it can shake you around a little bit.
Kind of curious if we are going to see many drivers take an early stop. Abrams is back out, by the way. He's a lap down, unfortunately, now, and he's got a lot of work to do. But with the spare car loaded up, he is making good pace once again. This is Momeyer, in the meantime, who is sitting in 14th. He's got a little ways before he gets lapped, but he's definitely a bit farther down than I think he needs to be after we saw him have a couple issues. He's still gained 3, though, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, he's up on the day. We've seen him have a spin. We've seen him had a couple of problems there, but it's nothing race ending. It's nothing that he's had to come down into pit lane for. And so that's what he needs to be doing here. And look up the road from him there. That's Andrew Beckner, only about 2 seconds up the road. So that's going to be a little bit of a carrot that John's going to be able to chase down. And as a driver, there's kind of 2 mentalities that you come into. You either like to be the driver that's ahead, trying to pull ahead, and that really helps you build a gap, getting that pressure, or you like being the driver that gets to chase a little bit, and that brings out the best in you.
That wasn't the best for Sean Momeyer. He had a spin, as DJ just mentioned, not less than a lap ago, coming into turn 4, and now he has absolutely destroyed the splitter coming over the chicane at the end of the lap. This allows Paul Newton to close up behind him. So from attack potentially to defense now for John Momeyer, with the Cutie's orange car getting ever close behind him.
Well, and I'd be a little bit, there he goes again. And as I was about to say, I'd be a little bit worried about the suspension in that car as it took a big lick coming down off that airborne event. And that's certainly not going to help John either.
Takes out a few cones along the ways, gets back onto the track, only loses the spot to Newton. Jacob Abrams is the next one down, but Momeyer is now a lap down along with Jacob Abrams. And yeah, you can see the right front of the car isn't quite perfect. So as he allows Latvala past, I think it seems like Momeyer is going to have to think about his life choices for a little bit after a couple of very scary moments for him. Worth noting on Johnson that he's still plugging away in third and is actually very safely in it, but Michael is not close to Corey Latvala. He's got about 8 seconds to make up to him. Instead, we look at one of our few close battles still on track here at Schulman and Mayorga.
Yeah, and Mayorga has just been slowly applying pressure here to Shulam. This hasn't been a competition of really taking leaps and bounds here. It's just slowly but surely pulling it in. It looks like Mayorga is a little bit better on the brakes, and so that is certainly going to help him try to close down a little bit more. But I will say the flip of that being is that Shulam has some good acceleration off the corners. That's the 16 around. That's Andrew Beckner.
Yes, another spinner off of turn 8. And he spun to the inside. Now, this one is a bit strange. I think this is the transition you talked about. Because usually we've seen spins on the way into the corner on this one, since it is a bit of a curved braking zone. But let's take a look at the replay.
So he brings it down there. It's a little bit of a narrow line. Comes around, carries a little bit of speed. And yeah, that car just started to go around. That looked like a little bit of extended wheel spin, just that rear end never really gripping up once he came onto the banking. There you can see it start to go there and just keeps going around, that lazy, slow spin that we often talk about.
And it took off his hood, so I got to guess that he's going to probably pit soon. He stayed out. He is pretty close to the pit window, and I think, yeah, no, he doesn't have a black and orange flag. He's going to pull out of the way to allow Corey Latvala by, who's a lapping car. So if he can make it to this hour mark, I think he can get to the finish, take that spare car, and not have to make an extra stop.
I think he can too. It's going to be a little bit difficult. As you saw him there come into that corner, you saw him really jabbing at the brakes, those rear brake lights lighting up like that. And so that is definitely telling me that that car is not feeling well. You can see the big wiggle there coming up onto the transition. Obviously a lot of damage on that car, and he is just, I think, trying to limp around to that hour mark here at this point.
I was going to check because Mayorga's fallen back a little bit. As he's up to 1.4 seconds. Seems to have lost ground on Jeffrey Shulam. There you can see him on screen. And last couple laps, no, last one was relatively quick. It was lap 19, but I didn't see anything really outrageous on that one. So Mayorga's got a bit more work to do. Behind him, you can see CPEC just kind of keeping him in check as well. And that is Matt on screen right now in that 12 machine.
Yeah, that Golf liveried machine just bringing around. Oh, no. More problems there for Beckner.
Coming out of Heartburn turn. Another spin on the exit. A little too greedy on the throttle, it appears, today for Andrew.
Yeah, just spinning those rear tires, and that's frankly a very, very easy thing to do in these Porsche GT3Rs as Momeyer goes around again. You know, we often talk about it, rear wheel engine, rear wheel drive. There's a lot of weight on that rear axle, and that just makes them prone to a little bit more of that tire spin. And when you get that, it can be a very, very hard thing to not only diagnose as it's happening, but to get it together, as that's the 183 around.
That's Mayorga.
And that breaks up one of the battles we've been watching.
Yeah, self-spin coming through turn 5. Took it a little too hot into the corner, and he caught the grass. I've done that in both the older version of this track and this one. It's another one that's so embarrassingly easy to do. This is Baccignone who's still in 10th position, has not had a perfect race by any stretch of the imagination. But Bolton, who is right on his bumper, is up 1. He's going to try and make it 2. Bolton not able to quite match the pace, though, of the man that is ahead of the pair of them. Matt Hollander's up 7 positions.
Yeah, indeed, he is. Hollander doing a really good job to work his way forward. He's got to find a 5-second gap to try to catch up to Mayorga. But remember, with that spin from Mayorga, that means Sam's going to be in his head a little bit more. He's going to have a little bit of a tougher time trying to get his way around. And it may be a little bit difficult there for him to do.
So Doug still leading as Bolton chases. And I can tell you, we don't need to go to Abrams, managed to pass Momeyer and get himself up to 14th. That's, I guess, the good news for Jacob in this race is we've got so much time, and it happened early, so he can try to make up for the huge loss that he suffered there.
Yeah, exactly. Still an hour to go in this session, and crucially, that means that pit stop window will be opening up here as we continue to watch Bolton just trying to close in here a little bit on the back of Baccignoni. Here they come around.
And doesn't seem like Bolton was quick that time by. He falls away a little bit from Doug, and he'll have to re-rack and get closer once again. This is one of our best fights on the track right now. Down into the last chicane. Oh, that was a lot of curb on the entry for Doug. It looks like he managed it well.
Yeah, it does.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, does indeed, Doug. A little bit closer onto the grass there. Not exactly what you'd want to see, but doesn't clobber the turtles. He's running a good race here. He's not running defensive. The one problem he has, though, is take a look at the right rear wing of that car. There's a little bit of damage there that could hurt him in a straight line.
Oh, and now right on top of him, Bolton going to try to go the long way around a 3 and 4. That is very tough to do, but he's got the speed. 2 wide into 5 doesn't go well, and it looks like Doug knows that as he lifted.
Yeah, Doug lifted out of it there, and discretion being the better part of valor. And sometimes in an endurance race like this, that is better to be able to go and let those drivers go on by you and not put up the fight and just bring the car home at the end of the day.
So will Doug try and hold on to him, though? As they seemed somewhat closely paced, although certainly Bolton gathered him in over the course of some laps. They're a third of the way through, and looks like a third of the field has been lapped, actually.
And we were wondering a little bit about that at the beginning of the race, of just how many would be able to do that, as that's the 66 coming down pit lane, it looks like. That is Doug Nguyen. He's going to be coming in, and one of the first drivers here. No, that's not down pit lane. That's a meatball flag. He's had some damage. That's on the backstretch.
Oh. So what or who did he hit? I'm double checking here. Oh, he slapped the outside wall, and Paul Newton was there and just added to the misery.
Oh, a 1-2 punch there for Doug Nguyen. We take another look at it here. Yeah, just brought too much speed through there, and Newton really nowhere to go. Kind of just hit in sympathy with him.
Well, it was a long and valiant try from Nguyen. He can get back out on track, but he hasn't taken his spare car, oddly, unless he's taken it and is just getting his regular service. And, oh, another meatball flag. That is, oh no, that's Matt Hollander. So much great work that he'd done, and it's all been undone now. Where did he have this happen, though?
Oh, big pancake into the wall there coming out of turn 7. And you can see him there kind of fiddling with the steering, working it back and forth, trying to see just how damaged it is.
Let's stay with this replay. Watch this. This was an odd addition to his incident, because down the backstretch, he's trying to stay off the racing line. He's doing the right thing here. but they have all these sleeping policemen here, and he has to avoid them, and he's got a car that doesn't like steering, which, and absolutely clobbers them, sends the car 4 wheels into the air.
My goodness. Well, luckily here for him, as we said before, under that hour mark, you can come in, get that free repair, come back out, no problem. One driver that doesn't have to worry about that, though, that is your leader, Tom Layton. He's got about a 5-second advantage over Corey Lotvala, and I think here for Tom, just stretch this pit stop out as long as you can. If you're in a good rhythm, no need to break it up.
Okay, then. Things getting interesting here. Oh, by the way, Doug Boccignone is still right up with Michael Bolton. I asked him whether or not he could retain this gap. He did, and he was actually 0.2 of a second behind him just now before they came through that chicane. Was not as quick as the 127, but making sure that Michael has to watch his mirrors.
Yeah, sure he does. And remember what I said, Doug lifting to let him go by, not wanting to put up too much of a fight. That's really thinking in the long game. And when you're running an endurance race, that long game is what you want to think about. Now, they are going to have a little bit of an added wrinkle into this battle here. That is Michael Robon directly ahead of them. He is a lap down in 16th position right now. He is about a second up the road, then he's going to do the right thing and get off. So there goes my talking point.
He actually spun. I don't think he intentionally did the right thing, but his skills forced him into it as he wound up low. Ooh, defensive move from Bolton as he was covering off Boccignone down into the backstretch chicane. He does not feel completely safe here, and now another great run from Doug. Will that bright green car be able to attack into the final chicane?
Well, he might have, but it looks like he's going to be coming down pit lane.
So instead of battling it out, he's going to try and get some clear air and take the car to the finish from here. Does he have any sort of damage on the car? Yeah, right rear is slightly bent up. So we'll see if that pops back in. Good news is they have 2 spare cars, so if he takes it, he's not completely out of luck after that. And no, car does not pop back into place. Oh, but he misses his pit stall. Now it pops back into play, so that's why we didn't see it change. He did take his spare car. He's going to lose a lot of time from that little error.
Yeah, and I thought there for a second that he may have missed that pit stall. He was very, very far ahead in that number 6 box, and that's going to definitely hurt him there. Doesn't look like he's taking tires, but that will come at the end. If he does, not going to take tires, fuel only, and Doug Boccignone is back on his way.
If I'm honest with how cool the conditions are here today, I think that's the right call. I'd be a bit surprised at anybody taking tires, but you never know. So like I said, before the race, there were some that theorized that it might be worth taking that extra time.
Yeah, it might be, but I have to agree with you, Joe. Track temperatures are 73 degrees out on track right now. I'd frankly be a little bit worried about getting them up to temperature here at this point. You're going to lose some time doing that. And we know that you can double, triple stint tires in these GT3 machines. So I think the safest option is to not take tires.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. As we watch our leader, Layton, leading Corey Lotvala by about 5 seconds. I think Corey's far enough behind. He probably can't see him. Yeah, on the straights here in the infield, he definitely cannot as he goes by Ting Wan. Maybe on the ovals, he can see him way up in the distance. But I'm thinking that Corey has unfortunately lost sight of his target. But definitely behind him, Michael Johnson has lost sight of Corey Lotvala because it's still 12.7 seconds between them. So there is Michael Johnson on your screen now. A gain of 3 for him since the start of this race. It's a guy that's had plenty of experience with endurance racing with his real-world heritage out there. And wonder if that will help him in trying to plan out the strategy as the race goes on.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking here, Joe, is that I'm not going to count out Michael W. Johnson at all over the course of this race. Yes, it's a 13-second gap back right now, but at the same time, it is very, very doable for Michael. What he needs to do is just put in good, consistent laps, and there is nobody better in this field than doing that than the number 9 of Michael Johnson. He knows that Corey's got a little bit of a carrot in front of him in the form of Tom Layton, and he has just got to hope that Corey maybe makes a little bit of a mistake as they go around.
Mentioned earlier that Jacob Abrams has been just kind of carrying on, seeing what he could gather up from this race. Well, he is, he was close to somebody, and now, that's because, Paul Newton just pitted. He was chasing Paul Newton, and now Newton's gone. So there goes a battle that I thought was going to happen. 27 is in his stall, taking what looks like scheduled service.
Yeah, I think that is for Newton there. Drivers just kind of opting the best time to come in or out of pit lane. Obviously, that depriving us there of a little bit of a battle that we could have been watching. This is one that I don't believe is for position right now. That's Robon, and that's the 127 of Michael Bolton.
Yeah, those are our last two running cars. Well, Robin is in the 929. Beckner and Nguyen are only two retirees so far. And Robin is the last driver running 2 laps down after he had some major hits earlier on, as opposed to the complete opposite of who just passed him, Tom Layton, the leader of the race currently. Bolton just in front of him, who is actually, is he perfectly between? Almost perfectly between. He's in 9th. It's a very strange set of strange situation that we're finding ourselves in, with the front, the back, and the middle.
Yeah, indeed. Everything just kind of playing itself out here, in a little bit of strange happenings out on track. As there, the leader gets up on by. You see Bolton just being very, very heads up, getting out of the way, letting Layton on by. Good competitive spirit there in this league. Everybody very courteous.
Absolutely, and I love to see that. This is a very close-knit group. They not only, and we haven't mentioned this in a while, not only do these guys race here in the sim world, they all race each other in real life. The Porsche Owners Club takes to the track out on the West Coast at a number of real-world circuits, and they are quite familiar with one another. So there's a definite sense of camaraderie, and you certainly can't pull the wool over anybody's eyes. They all know how each other races.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody kind of knows each other's secrets. Everybody knows who the aliens are, things like that. And it really creates for a fantastic racing environment. I mean, that's why you create a league here on iRacing, is so you can race with people that you trust and you get to know people's racing styles. Because that's one thing that we haven't really talked about, is that, everybody drives a little bit differently. And when you race in a league like this that is the same competitors around the track, you know who's going to be the late breaker into the corner. You know who is going to take an apex a little bit differently. You know everything that everybody is going to do, and that just creates better racing.
Well, the one that's not been creating the best of racing in recent events is this man, Tom Layton. And it's not to disparage him. It's just that he's that fast. He's been pulling away from everyone and not making it much of a contest. Lotville has been trying to keep him honest. Corey just needing that 3rd podium of the season, and so far he's on his way to potentially making that happen here today with his 2nd place right now. We're getting close to the halfway mark of this race. A couple more laps. We're going to hit that at the 45 minutes. And Tom Layton, I guess really, honestly, the thing that impresses me most about Tom is this is his rookie season with the POC. Just arrived at the very first race, 2nd place, almost won the race as well, and has shown them that they need to really step up their game.
Yeah, indeed. And that's often what can happen in these series. You've got to bring your A game. You cannot be sitting around and waiting. You have got to absolutely push, because you never know who's going to come on in and be that wild card that can absolutely take the field. We came into this season kind of thinking that this could be anybody's game, and Layton, well, he's changed that mentality a little bit.
I'm looking through the order on strategy right now. Hollander is our highest driver to have pitted on a scheduled stop. Abrams is ahead of him, but remember he had a much earlier pit stop. And in fact, Jacob still has 17 seconds to go get the next car up. That's Mark Rondeau. That's more than a quarter of the lap around here. Oh, and what's happened to Ting? How did she get there?
Maybe that's an issue of just carrying a little bit too much speed down into the corner and losing the rear end, but that's about all I can think of going down there. It's not exactly the area you'd see a driver lose it like that.
Yeah, I went back and watched, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. Rear came around into that backstretch chicane, and she waited very, very patiently for an opening to happen. She probably could have moved a little quicker, but decided to try and play it as safe as possible. I think that lost her a position potentially, and Paul Newton got by. She's down to 16th in the meantime. So we check out the car of Matthew Sepek here. He's got Jad Duncan behind him, 1.2 seconds behind. Probably the closest fight we've got currently. Hollander and Baccignone also relatively close. Both of them have finished their pit stops. Remember, we saw Doug go a little bit deep into his pit stall. He probably would have been ahead of Matt if he hadn't have had that issue during his pit sequence.
Yeah, indeed. Probably would have been able to do that, but that's just going to be a little bit more of an attack mode here for Doug to try to push his way forward if he can. But this battle, relatively equidistant here. Shulam about 1.8 seconds ahead of Sepek. Jad Duncan about 1.5 seconds behind. So this is very much one of those slow pressure cookers that you're just kind of waiting for everything to fire off, and it'll take a little bit of time, but it'll certainly be there.
Down through Heartburn turn once again. Yeah, 1.1 seconds. Duncan just keeping him honest. But it is still our closest fight on the track. Now we've passed that halfway point. 45 minutes into this event of 90 minutes here today. Are we going to start to see any of the attrition cause drivers to get a little too exhausted out there? Lack focus at the end. The darkness, is it messing with them at all? As up onto the banking. That is the car of Shulam pulling about 3 more tenths over Matthew that time by a very good exit into NASCAR 1.
Yeah, fantastic exit there into NASCAR 1 for him. All these drivers just continuing to go. It looks like Shulam's been able to pull out a little bit over Sepek there. Duncan closing it a little bit. I think Sepek didn't have the best lap around last time.
Yeah, it doesn't quite look like it as they complete yet another lap here. With us passing the halfway mark, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the latter half of round 8 in the Porsche Owners Club Series, the 90 minutes of Charlotte.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're watching round 8 of the Porsche Owners Club. Tom Layton on screen is your leader and has been almost the whole race. He lost the lead for part of the first lap and then got it back before they even crossed the line. You may have seen on your screen, though, we've had a battle develop for 12th place. Matt Hollander is not willing to give this spot up. Oh, but he goes deep. Oh, no, in contact. Hard into the wall and over goes Baccignone. He was on the attack, doing his best to try and get that position, but that all went awry in the flash of an eye.
Indeed it did. Absolutely falling apart there for Doug Baccignone, just catching a little bit too much of that curbing, and that's sending him right around. A terrible end of the day for Doug.
Taking another look at it, and that all started with just going too deep, and I can understand Doug wanting to try and take advantage of it. It just, as soon as he did that, well, into the curb goes Matt. He can't control the car when it's off the ground like that, and when there's a car to your right-hand side, he's going to wind up in him.
Yeah, that's always going to kind of happen there as they do it. But we have another battle starting to develop a little bit here. Schulem and Sipek, only about 0.7 of a second separating these two. These two have been coming together for the last couple of laps.
Good news for Doug Baccignone fans. He was able to get into his second spare car and get back out. But now he's really under the gun. He can't make any more mistakes as... Oh, and Hollander is in pit lane as well. He's going to have to take his spare car also, I think. Yeah, there he is on screen now.
Yeah, so he's going to come in. He very clearly picked up some damage from that as well. He'll get that car repaired a little bit. 39 minutes here to go. This is definitely starting to be crunch time, and I think definitely here for Sipek, he is going to start to try pushing a little bit on Schulem.
Glad to see we got a little bit of a fight still, and for a top 5 as well. So Sipek and Schulem still need to take a pit stop. Wonder if either of them will elect to do that soon. They've got about 9 more minutes of the pit window. Then they'll have to come in, take at least fuel. They don't necessarily have to take tires. It's been a bit of a talking point here tonight, and I don't think we've had anybody actually take them unless they had been in to get damage repaired and just took the extra time to do so. Down into Heartburn turn. Schulem still a half a second ahead of Matt in that number 12. And we'll see how they carry on up to that 30-minute to go mark and which one of them blinks first.
Exactly. I think here for Matthew, what he wants to do is just keep applying this pressure. I don't anticipate any real crazy moves from him. Nothing to really keep pushing too hard on it. He just wants to sit back and wait. See if he can force a mistake out of Jeffrey Schulem. That is the strategy that I would be taking here right now, Joe, is that sort of calmness, that caution, not going for a big bonsai move, just keeping the pressure there, as that is Michael Johnson coming down pit lane.
And he's joined by Mark Rondeau as well, who he had just lapped. We come back to the battle now between Schulem and Sipek, but that was a very good exit from Jeff. And it looks like Matt had a bit of a problem, so he's going to fall backwards slightly. Will either of them pit in this time? Nope, they're going to stay out.
All right, so that battle's going to continue on there. Michael Johnson looking like he's going to fall down to about 7th or 8th. He is your highest driver to have taken a pit stop here at this point.
He's taking tires.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh. Okay. So he thinks that they are going to be worth something. We'll see if that actually winds up being the case. He had a slight bit of damage, but he did not take his free repair. I think it was just curb strikes, which obviously are very easy to pick up and bend up the splitter. Off the jacks he goes, and he is rolling now. He's going to wind up in 8th position. Jacob Abrams is way behind him and still needs to stop. So we'll see who else will now pit. And like you said, yeah, Johnson, the highest driver to have pitted at this stage.
And that does put him a lap down on your leader, Tom Layton, here with that pit stop. But we anticipate that obviously shuffling back out once this race, once everybody does come down pit lane. Now, the pit window will close around 30 minutes left to go. That's about when I would anticipate it closing. So within the next 6 minutes or something.
It is a very short lap, so the good news is they've probably got a bit of variation as Ting is down at the bottom of the track yet again, allowing drivers to go by. She's currently our last driver on the track, but I think, and there is Layton in. So our leader pits, Latvala carries on, and we got a ways to wait until Travis Brown gets around. But I was going to say Ting Wan is going to take 16th off of Matt Hollander soon, because Matt is still sitting in pit lane taking repairs. He's not taking his spare car. Not sure why he decided that. And Layton, will he take tires? Let's keep an eye on this.
Yeah, let's keep our eyes focused here. Remember, tires will come at the end of the stop, so you'll see that car go up on the air jacks, and that will be the indicator that tires have been taken. Nope.
That is a big ol' no to the tires, and Brown is back out. So this should give us an idea of how much that hurt Michael Johnson. And wow, he actually is about 2/3 of the lap ahead of Michael Johnson because of that difference in strategy.
Oh, I'm not sure that taking tires here for Michael Johnson was the best strategy, as it would certainly, looking like it's going to put him down in the field as here Latvala comes down pit lane.
Yeah, let me see what the lap times look like, because he's going to need a big difference in lap time over what are going to be probably about 23, 24 laps or somewhere around there. 1:15.9. That's still pretty close to what he was running, if even potentially a little slower than what he was before the stop. I just don't think Michael's going to be able to make this up.
I don't think he is either. I don't think the gap, the delta is going to be quite enough on those new tires for him to really get success out of it.
So Latvala is still finishing his pit stop. Layton is already past him. 24.2 seconds the stop for the 97. 25.1, about a second longer for Corey Latvala. So either Corey was long on the fuel or Layton cut it a little bit tight.
Well, looking at some of the other times here, it's all thrown off because nobody's really come down on this late end of the pit stops yet.
Yeah, I was kind of realizing the same thing, but we'll try and keep track of that, because that could be an issue if the 97 short-fueled it. Yes, he's got a pretty decent gap. In fact, it's, man, it is a big gap at this point. Latvala had been just bleeding time. It's over 15 seconds between himself and Layton. And that's not just due to that 1 second pit stop time difference between them either. And that's Travis Brown just ahead, who is our new leader, but still needs to take a pit stop. Latvala is way far away from Johnson, as you'd expect as well, with Johnson taking those tires. as Sipek is pitting in. We were wondering about how that battle is going to be going between himself and Mayorga.
Yeah, indeed we did. And so it looks like Sipek's going to be coming in to try to... Oh, no, they're both going to be coming in at the same time. I was going to say they were going to try to split it out a little bit if they could.
And sorry, it wasn't Mayorga. It was Shulam that he was battling with. Shulam carried on, but Shulam had a problem through the first corner. He almost spun the car up. He lost maybe about 3 or 4 seconds. What if we could get a replay there? It was into the first turn, so maybe about 40 to 50 seconds ago. Here it is. He's going to lose a little control. Oh, great catch, though. Great catch.
Yeah, fantastic four-wheel slide there, full opposite lock on the car, and that is going to hold up Corey Lotfa a little bit. Remember, Shulam, this is a battle for position. Shulam is not entitled to let him by.
No, but he's got to pit pretty soon. So, yes, he might hold up Corey, but not for too many laps. In fact, is he coming in? Oh, I think he wanted to. I think he wanted to pit in. Oh, and now, oh no, he's into the wall and he gets hit by Jad Duncan. That was also for position. Oh no. I think Shulam just miscalculated how late he could go on the brakes because he motioned like he wanted to enter the pits and then just suddenly kept going on to the chicane.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was there from him. An altogether strange incident, Joe. I don't really have an explanation for it whatsoever.
What if we could get a replay on his approach towards the pit entry? If we could try and hear how early he gets on the binders, that might help clear it up if our speculation is actually the case. Shulam able to carry on, it looks like. Here we go. Yeah, I'm pretty certain he was aiming for that pit entry, and then that put him offline.
Yep.
And the chicane was just a mess.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you, you know, that second bus stop on the track, so very tricky. He's down on the right line there, and I think it may have been a little bit of seeing Duncan there behind him as well that just kind of rattled him in his rear view mirror a little bit, and that could have certainly sent him into the wall as well, just kind of a mental error like that.
Now he's made his way to pit lane, but with quite a bit of damage, thankfully, before he ran out of fuel. And in fact, we're hearing he has a meatball flag. Good news if you're a fan of Jeffrey Shulam. He has both of his spare cars in his pocket, so he will be able to use them here to make this a regular stop. But he has definitely lost out to his rivals because of that. So Sipek should easily go past him. Although, I say that, Matthew is another one that looks like he took tires.
Interesting. Some tire strategy starting to develop itself here a little bit. And, you know, I'm keeping my eye on the gap right now between Michael Johnson and Travis Brown, and it is coming down, Joe.
Yeah, Brown jumped him in the pit stops, not taking tires. But he's got to make up 12 seconds, 28 laps. So he's got to be about half a second a lap faster each time. I don't know. To me, that's expecting too much out of those tires.
Yeah, I think it may be as well, but we'll have to see what he can do. I mean, the one thing I will say is that these tires do hit a little bit of a cliff, and so if they are worried about that near the end of the race in this final, say, 15 minutes or so, if they've really got to be light on the tires, that could change things up quite a bit.
Ooh, can we get a replay on Mayorga making a pass on Duncan into, of all places, turn 5? Brilliant stuff to get that one done. As we watch on screen, this is Duncan and Brown. Here's the replay of that overtake. Just had a good run, saw an opportunity, was brave enough to stick the car in. And Duncan almost, I would bet he was a bit shocked that that happened.
Yeah, I think he was as well, Joe. That is not an area you see an overtake done normally, and I think Duncan was just a little bit scared off the line seeing that car flying on through like that.
So come back live. Mayorga tries to run away, but how about Schulem and Jacob Abrams? No, Abrams around. Abrams hard into the wall, and there goes Sipek, who thankfully does not hit him, making an avoidance maneuver. I was about to mention that Jacob simply needs to get to his pit stop, and then we'll figure out what position he's supposed to be in. But this is not going to help the situation. He's going to have to come back around, probably take his second spare car. And what happened here? Oh, he's lost control of the rear.
Yeah, and I think that was just a little bit of aero wash there, Joe, truthfully, coming through the heartburn turn. Just lost a little bit of control of it, maybe spun those rear tires up potentially, and that is just what sent him around, and he was unable to catch the car before it ended up in that inside barrier.
He definitely damaged the suspension or something because he spun again coming up onto the oval. That's why you saw him down on the apron. So back into the pits he goes. He was going to need to visit one more time regardless, but this probably just hastened that a little bit. Oh no, Jad Duncan just had a spin. Coming through heartburn turn. He clips the wall a little bit. Oh, and there's a blinking car. That is Sipek in the 12, who thankfully is able to avoid him. But, well, I asked the question earlier, DJ, if the drivers will find themselves getting a little bit too exhausted to keep focusing as hard as they need to do, and I'm seeing some unfortunate errors.
Yeah, I am too. Some pretty massive damage to the front there of that 83 of Jad Duncan. And this is the time when you do start to expect those errors to really start coming through here. It's very, very difficult to be able to keep yourself focused for a double stint like this. Training for an endurance race, when you talk about doing the long endurance races here on iRacing, it is really a gift unto itself. Running 40 laps all out, full focus in, that is hard enough, but doing that for an hour and a half, 2-3 hours, absolutely 100% commitment and very hard to do.
Speaking of hard to do, Michael Johnson's still 12.4 seconds behind Travis Brown. So Travis is looking pretty safe here. Last two laps, 15.9, 16.0. Johnson, 16.0, 16.2. Yeah, he's actually losing a little bit of time, I think, is Michael Johnson. Some of that could be the traffic, but regardless, I get the sense that this was a bit of a failed ploy as we watch Abrams catching up to Newton with a fresh car underneath him and probably quite a bit of speed as he approaches the backstretch chicane. He's not close enough to attack this time.
No, not quite yet, but he's going to try to gather it up back up here. He's going to have a little bit of a help in that draft. Remember, not nearly as powerful necessarily around places like Daytona, but still strong enough to be able to pull him around this. And there he goes. Good lines. Ooh, big chunk there for Paul Newton coming off of that final turtle.
I got the sense, though, that he's got the pace, especially from what we saw in qualifying. He's down 8 positions from where he gridded up. And Abrams being out of position right now, he probably is going to be able to make this overtake at some point, as long as he doesn't have another error in which he gets some severe damage. That's a big if, though, the way that things have been going lately.
Yeah, indeed. Drivers are going to have to be very, very careful. I mean, we could be dealing a little bit with those tires, Joe. We talked about a little bit of tire fall off. These drivers could be squabbling a little bit, trying to make sure that they've got maximum grip.
So here's an interesting one, though. Before the race, Michael Johnson came to us, gave us a prediction of 2 cars left on the lead lap. We are down to 4 cars left on the lead lap, and Michael's actually the last one on the lead lap right now. Leighton looks like about 20 seconds behind him, I think.
All right, I'm looking at their lap times here, and it looks like Tom Leighton is about a second a lap faster right now, so not out of the realm of possibility here that he could be able to get him.
That would give us 3 cars left on the lead lap. So just a couple off there, just one off. If Johnson's predictions wind up being this close, there you see the lap time difference between the leader and the 4th place driver. Clayton actually still has a couple other cars between himself and Johnson before he laps him. Momeyer, Newton, and Abrams. Speaking of which, Abrams still hasn't been able to overtake on Newton. That surprises me somewhat. Thought for sure the 728 had a significant pace difference. As they come onto the oval, he's actually farther back than when we last saw him. Oh, what's happened here?
Looks like Mark Rondeau's had a little bit of a problem coming up over that tricky crest of the corner. I think he just looped the rears around. Didn't make any wall contact from what I can tell, but just a spin here late in the race.
Back he goes onto the banking, and back we go over to the battle for 10th. Into the breaking of the final chicane. Oh, just brushing that wall once again. Abrams really flirting with the edges of the track, which unfortunately here are walls. And right now he's all over that bumper. He's going to send it into turn 4, and I think that was facilitated a little bit. Newton looked like he got out of the way.
Yeah, I think Paul read the writing on the wall on that one. And as we've talked about here, when you're this late in the race and you've got a car that is clearly faster behind you, it really just is one of those things that it's easier to just let the car on by. Oh, we've got a car around.
At Schulem, he was in the midst of a fight, and unfortunately, he was leading 2 of them. And that also brought, oh, we need a replay of this one. Duncan got a big piece of it, but it gifted CPEC 6th place. It's so narrow through this part of the track coming off of Heartburn Turn, and it's hard to avoid others who find themselves with issues. Oh, it was 2 separate ones. Wow. He actually would have been okay.
And I believe that was Chad Duncan that had that secondary spin there for him. My goodness. Yeah, just those rear tires giving out, and just watch on board here, gets it back going, and pop.
Out of the blue. Not expecting it whatsoever. There goes that yellow car into his nose. And is Duncan still going? Yeah, Duncan is still out there. That was a pretty big hit. I'm kind of amazed that he's still rolling. But Jeffrey Schulem will not be able to keep rolling because he's got a meatball flag. There he goes to serve it. Does he have a spare car? Yes. Schulem can get back out there. Not everybody does. Mayorga and Baccignone are out of them. Jacob Abrams is out of them. So they got to be careful. Actually, no, Mayorga's not out of them. He still has both of them, excuse me.
Yeah, so drivers do have to be very careful, though. And I mean, even in this stage, even with the spare car, you don't really want to having to be taking this spare car here at this point, because that's just going to put you so far down the order that it's going to effectively take you out of anything. There you can see, looks like he's up on the jacks, maybe taking tires here late in the race.
I mean, might as well at this point. If you've been compromised, let's take it all. So, carrying on, there is our leader catching up to Momeyer. I mentioned earlier that he's got a couple cars before he overtakes Michael Johnson. Down to the final 18 minutes, and we got a black flag for the 371. That's Jeffrey Schulem. That's probably incident limits.
Incident limits, or I wonder if he sped into pit lane, Joe.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Let me check on that real quick. He's been in there for some time, so he might be serving that penalty right now. Looking at the cones. Yep, he was well over it. by a number of miles an hour. 40 miles an hour here on pit lane, and he was running at 47, 46, well past the entry cone. Good catch on that, DJ.
Oh, thank you. But we focus back here on Leighton as he continues his methodical progress just through the field. He's been able to cut down a little bit more on Michael W. Johnson, but I don't know if that's going to play out here in the final 17 minutes of this race. He's still got a good ways up to catch up to the number 9.
Yeah, it's 26 seconds to Johnson. Mayorga's a long ways away at this stage. In fact, the top 4 are all split by 10 seconds or more. Top 5, you get back to Mayorga, that's the 27 seconds gap I mentioned. First one a lap down there in that 183 machine. As we take a look at Corey Latvala coming back onto the oval. Still have 15 cars left on the track when Beckner, Hollander, and Robin are the ones out of this race.
And not nearly as much attrition as we were really anticipating, Joe. I think you and I both thought that there would be a far more drivers that would be knocked out here. So kudos to the Porsche Owners Club for keeping as many drivers out on circuit as they have been.
Absolutely. Well, I know they've done a lot of practice races. They've had a lot of practice sessions. And I think they wanted to take this one about as seriously as they did with Detroit and make sure that plenty of drivers get to the checkered flag here today. Wow. Oh, my goodness. How close is Latvala getting to some of these walls?
I mean, he is absolutely pushing here. I think he's got a little bit of the red mist going on. He just wants to try to do everything he can. He doesn't really need to. He's got 16 seconds up the road to Leighton. He's got 29 back to Brown. And this isn't necessarily a circuit like Bathurst where you have to push the entire way to make sure you're running it right. You can back off a little bit around here.
Yeah, and as he rides around the oval, he'll approach the backstretch chicane while Leighton is already coming up to the front stretch chicane. Let's ride on board with the 97, the man who has been the class of the field. Let's listen in to how you whip this car around this circuit. There's 2 laps around Charlotte, riding with Tom Layton, who has got this place figured out. And honestly, what wows me, DJ, is how close he's able to get to the walls and how aggressive he is with the curbs. And the car looks planted too. He wasn't out of control that whole time.
Well, it just goes to show you, Joe, when a driver is in the zone, they know exactly where every corner of the car is. They're thinking everywhere, and they know just how far they can push it. And for a lot of these drivers, you calm yourself down and, you say, I've got this big lead. I don't really need to push it. And the truth is that calming down just allows you to feel the car a little bit more. It allows you to swing it through the corners a little bit faster. You're not fighting the wheel nearly as much. And it just makes for a better run in the car, and it really and truly makes you go faster and seem like you are right on the ragged limit, when in reality you are just in absolute control.
I'm checking the laps here, and we have been criticizing Michael Johnson's call for the tires. Now, I still don't think it's going to get him 3rd place, but it's down to 9 seconds between himself and Travis Brown. He's been picking it up. Is there maybe a bit of a cliff on the tires?
Maybe there is. That's a bit of what we had talked about there. You can see that gap coming down to Brown. I mean, he's bringing it down bit by bit by bit. He still has about 9.5 seconds to go here with about 11 minutes left to go in this race. So those numbers need to be a little bit higher, I think, if he really wants to close in.
Yeah, he's got 10 minutes left on the clock. That's only going to be, I'm seeing, about 9 more laps to go. And yeah, he needs huge inroads here. And in fact, he had a bad chicane, I think, on the backstretch and lost a little bit of time. Looking at Brown's last lap, 16.0. So we wait for Johnson to come through. And his last lap, a 15.2, 0.8 of a second that time by. Okay, so Johnson is a-coming.
Yeah, he certainly is. All right, that's exactly the kind of pace we need to see from Michael Johnson to make this into a little bit of a battle here at the end.
Also, don't need to go to it, but Rondeau had a bit of a spin. Actually, no, yeah, let's go to it right here. Here we see it on screen. Baccignone is going to get a spot because of that. Both drivers suffering problems here today, and Mark does not want any part of that fight. He lifts on the backstretch to let Doug have 11th place. I think he just wants to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, at this point in the race, Joe, you are mentally and physically exhausted. Let's remember that most of these guys are driving with really high-end simware, stuff that really replicates that force feedback quite well, and it can really take a toll on your arms. Your legs are getting stiff, and indeed, there you see Rondeau coming down pit lane right now.
So Travis Brown last time, 16.4, another slightly slower one. Johnson's going to cross. Last lap was his personal best. This one not nearly as good, but a 15.8. And that is still a good 0.6 faster. This just got much more interesting here at the very end. But he probably needed that cliff to really come in a bit sooner. I think he maybe needed about another 10 minutes in this race.
Yeah, I think that's about right there, Joe. He just needed a little bit more time to make it work. 8 seconds with about 8.5 minutes to go, and he's taking 0.1 of a second out of that gap. He's not taking full seconds out of that gap, and I think that's going to hurt him a little bit.
And Johnson is in a battle for points with Travis Brown. There's only 4 separating them here. And though I don't think they will swap positions. No, they won't swap positions if Brown beats him. He's going to be a lot closer. So Johnson probably has extra impetus to catch up to the 79. If you're wondering about our leaders and what's going on with them, well, we're not covering them because Layton's still a full 16 seconds ahead of Corey Lotvilla, and there's not been a whole lot of change between them. Down and across the line, Johnson at a 15.8, similar to the last lap, another 15.8, 16.3 for Travis Brown. That's 5 more tenths.
Yeah, bringing it down here, bringing it down closer and closer. Michael just running good lines here. As we said before, Michael is an experienced endurance racer. He knows how to pace himself out, and he is just running very, very consistently quick laps here at this point.
And let's see, I'm seeing 7 laps left to go, I think, on these. It's getting down to it. Looks like Tom Layton is continuing to extend that gap over Latvala as well. Of course, there is the chance that somebody could have short-fueled on this race, so they got to consider that. Brown's coming around to finish his lap as we watch Johnson on our screen. And the 79 crosses the line at a 16-1. He's picking it back up a little bit, trying to get some pace underneath him. Johnson, 15.5, still 0.6 quicker. This will be incredibly close. He's probably just going to start feeling the slipstream, I think, on the last lap.
Yeah, he just might be. It also may depend on when that white flag falls for Tom Layton. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. That will be a crucial thing.
It just crossed with about 6 minutes and 8 seconds to go, did Tom Layton. I'm sure this will be a win he'll savor as long as he brings it to the checkered flag from here. It was a long one. Probably pretty grueling having to avoid these walls and also deal with the lap traffic, lapping everybody up to 4th place. Don't think Johnson's going to get lapped. He's still well ahead, it appears, by those 20 seconds that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, indeed. He's been able to hold that out for long enough. And I think you're right, Michael. He is just coming through that bus stop on the front stretch right now. And your leader, Tom Layton, just coming out of the bus stop on the back stretch. So with 5 minutes to go in this race, I think he is going to be safe. And Michael's prediction of only 2 cars on the lead lap looks like it's going to come false by about 2 cars.
Last time by, Brown cut it down to 15.7. for his lap, but Johnson still at a 15.3, 4/10 quicker. Travis is definitely turning up the wick. I think he's aware of the encroaching Michael Johnson, since there's no other cars between them. No, there's one between them. There's only Baccignone. So he's got to be able to see him on the F3 relative box in the sim and know that that gap is getting smaller.
Yeah, indeed, he does. He certainly knows it. It's just a matter if he can hold it out here. 6.5 seconds now separating the two. 4 minutes and 20 seconds going. There are your 2 protagonists on your screen. Is Johnson going to be able to catch here?
4 minutes left. Layton is coming down to the back stretch chicane. So a minute 15. We're looking at 2:30. for 2 laps, and that'll be 3:45 for 3 laps. So what will it be? This is going to be close. Oh, and Ting is parked off the racing line for some reason in the barrier out of turn 4. Ooh, we might actually be a lap less here. Layton crossed at about a 3 minutes and 44, and that certainly could change the complexion. Was that Rondeau? That was Rondeau that just about took out the 97.
Oh, that has got to be way too close for comfort there for Tom Layton as Corey Latvala sets the fastest lap of the race. Layton is thanking his lucky stars on that one.
14.5 to 8. In fact, that's about 0.3 of a second quicker than Tom Layton. I think Tom Layton's best lap, I should clarify. Wonder if he had some help from some lap traffic with some slipstream, because he went by Paul Newton last time by. If it might not be that case, I don't want to kind of slander Corey Latvala. He could be just that fast here today, just couldn't be consistent enough with his speed potentially. So this one will be a little bit more accurate this time by for Tom Layton, who's coming around to the final chicane. Remember, about 2 minutes 30 for their laps, for 2 laps here. And no, he is going to be 2 to go, essentially. This time by white flag next time for Tom Layton, which is bad news for Johnson. One less lap that he can try and attack on Travis Brown. So, and he's got 4.8 seconds up to him. Last time by Brown at a 17 flat. That was a very slow one for Travis. Johnson at a 15.8.
That's the kind of pace that he needs. And there you can see Michael Johnson coming into the shot at the back of the screen. Little bit wide there for the 79 of Travis Brown. He has just got to nurse this thing around here for about 2.5 more laps. Hope he can keep everything together.
It was a 22.8 second stop for Travis Brown. That was pretty quick. Anybody else that didn't take tires was about 24-25. I wonder if Travis is short on fuel, potentially, and that's why he's losing pace in comparison. As there across the line goes Michael Johnson, but behind him, Tom Layton is approaching the last chicane. And yes, it is going to be 1 lap to go. The white flag is out for the 97.
Indeed, white flag in the air. Michael W. Johnson still about 4.8 seconds behind Travis Brown. So that gap, I think, may be unassailable here at this point for that final podium position.
Yeah, unless Brown does actually run out of fuel or have some sort of mistake, he's pretty much got that one in hand. It's still 4.5 seconds. How about having the race win in your hand? Is Tom Layton still 14.5 seconds ahead of Corey Lotfala? Corey is just still in the infield as Tom Layton comes on to the oval. He's also got this one easily. If he is anywhere short of fuel, there is Lotfala now exiting onto NASCAR 1. Down into the backstretch chicane for one last time for Tom Layton. 4 wins on the trot for him thus far. He's only been off the podium 1 time, back in Hockenheim in round 2. And this is going to be a 5th win in a row for Tom Layton as he heads through the last chicane here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 90 minutes of racing gives him the win.
A fantastic drive from Tom Layton, 15 seconds over his closest competitor. That is how you get it done, Joe.
Johnson is trying to close in. Last lap, a 16 flat. Brown still pushing hard. 3.7 seconds is a 15.2 for Johnson. Just about up to his fastest lap of the race, but too little too late. Travis Brown going to get himself a podium finish. His, I believe, 5th of the season. Consistency looking very good for that number 79 machine. And indeed, Travis Brown out to the final chicane. Can't even see Johnson in the background. Couldn't even get that close as Brown takes 3rd. Johnson, the last one on the lead lap, in the 4th position. Well then, after 90 minutes, we have our results in this race. And it was Tom Layton who took the victory over Corey Lotfala by about 1/4 of a minute. In the end, it was Travis Brown who did finish out your podium, and Michael Johnson, the last one to finish on the lead lap. He predicted only 2 drivers that would finish all.
And then Travis Brown, as you said, in 3rd place. Michael W. Johnson coming home in 4th, the last driver on the lead lap. Sam Mayorga coming home in 5th place, followed by Matthew Sipek a lap down, Chad Duncan, Michael Bolton, Jacob Abrams, and Paul Newton rounding out your top 10.
Doug Boccignone was 11th as Mark Rondeau was 12th. It's Jeffrey Shulam, P13 today, and John Momeyer, P14, 3 laps down. From then, it went to those who DNF'd: Guan, Roban, Hollander, Beckner, and Nguyen. So let's take a quick chat then in the meantime with our winner for this race, Tom Layton, who did lose the lead at one point, but led almost every lap of this race. Tom, you had a bit of an attack from Corey after the start, and he managed to get away from you, but you took it back before you even crossed the start-finish line. Was there ever any doubt for you today?
Hey, Corey was showing great pace early on. I didn't know if my strategy was going to be either try to get past him or just try to sit behind him and fuel save. But yeah, I was feeling pretty confident, and yeah, it ended up being a good race.
We saw a lot of drivers struggle around here. It does look like a pretty difficult track for the GT3R. What do you feel like made it such a difficult combination?
I think it's just the chicanes, the curbs everywhere. You know, this track, if you even look at a wall the wrong way, it'll throw your whole car off. And a lot of people, I think, were coming in for their faster pairs and things like that. So it's really tough to drive this for 90 minutes and like hold your concentration and stay away from the walls.
Well, 5 wins in a row, and the good news is you won't have too many walls to be concerned about next time out as we head to Circuit of the Americas. Can you make it 6?
Hopefully. Yeah, Coda's a fun one. It's a tricky one. So, yeah, I'll have to do some practice and hopefully make it 6.
Well, that was Tom Layton, your winner here after 90 minutes at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Meanwhile, DJ has caught up with Corey Lotfella, who gave it his best but just came up short today.
I have indeed, Corey. A good run out there for you, but it just seemed like Tom just had the edge on you.
Yeah, at the beginning, I wanted to keep him honest, but then I saw the gap behind me start growing, and I'm like, you know what? I know I don't have the speed for Tom, so I'm not going to worry about him. I'm just going to play with the guys behind me and make sure I can keep the distance, and it just kept growing and growing, and yeah, it worked out.
Well, were you ever worried about an attack from behind? I mean, were you just kind of focused on running your own race here at that point once he checked out?
I was focused on running my own race. I was definitely watching my black box and making sure they were staying back there. And once it got to like 16, 17 seconds, I actually turned the black box off because it was distracting me. I'm like, I can't look at this anymore. I just need to focus.
I've done that exact same thing. I know exactly what it is. But I also have to ask you, I mean, any problems out there at all? Any problems with lap traffic? It looked like about as smooth could be.
No, it was really good, actually. Everyone was doing a really good job. Just focused on my tires, really. Didn't want to wear them out. Came to, I don't know, it was lap like 70 or 68 or something like that, and I put down a 14.5. I was like, man, the tires feel pretty good. And then I come into the next corner, I'm like, ooh, they got a little slippery, and I was like, I need to keep them consistent. And yeah, but everyone made it a good race.
Well, made it a fantastic race. And is there anybody you'd like to thank for the second place here?
Yeah, I would love to thank Schmidt Racing for sticking with me for almost 2 years now, and friends and family watching it. Everyone's texting me after the race. I always hear my phone. It's always fun to look at that. And thanks for the POC for putting everything on, and you guys doing a great job with the broadcast.
Well, we are more than happy to, Corey, and congratulations once again, my friend.
Thanks.
It was Corey Lotfella, your second place finisher here today, Joe.
And I think that is going to wrap things up here for today. As we close out, we want to thank the sponsors of this series, of course, as Porsche is our first one because there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. As well as Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more information about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next time out, Circuit of the Americas, as I mentioned, that'll be Monday, May 9th at 11 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.